Today is Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. Welcome to the Southbridge School Committee meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we'd like to ask for any public input. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the school committee at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on and call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Olivo?
Present.
Mrs. Congdon?
Present.
Dr. D'Amico?
She's absent due to a
Mrs.
work commitment.
Mrs. Donovan?
Present.
Mrs. Quinney?
Present.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Present.
5 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5, we're going to approve a couple of meeting minutes this evening. On the agenda was the joint meeting with the Town Council EHS Subcommittee held on February 4th, 2014. Those minutes are not ready at this time, so we will remove them from the agenda and approve them at an upcoming meeting. Agenda item B under 5 was regular school committee meeting minutes of February 11th, 2014. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Quinney makes the motion. Mrs. Congdon seconds it. Is there any discussion? I would just like to say that at the last meeting, Dr. D'Amico asked that the meeting minutes be revised to reflect a point of order that she had made regarding when I was speaking of the recently negotiated teacher's contract. That has since been added, and everybody has received a copy. I hope you had an opportunity to look at that.
Looks good.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to
Roll call.
roll call, please.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mr. Olivo?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. At this time, I will accept a motion to approve the regular school committee meeting minutes of February 25th, 2014. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Quinney, seconded by Mrs. Congdon. Is there any discussion on the February 25th meeting minutes? Mrs. Congdon?
Just a couple of additions. Under roll call, number 4C, I believe Mr. Aaron Osborne was also present in the audience.
Thank you.
And just one other correction, under new business, member forum, item B, I stated Troughton Street and West Street School, just to add West Street School to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Appreciate that. Is there any other discussion? Can we vote to approve the minutes as with those changes? We'll make those changes. They're not substantive necessarily, so we're able to go ahead and approve those.
Roll call.
Okay, we need a roll call vote, please.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mr. Olivo?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. Under Chairwoman's announcements, I just have a few brief announcements. This evening, Ms. Patricia Gardner is joining us. The superintendent is away. He is expected to return the week of March 17th, so Ms. Gardner is filling in his absence. The superintendent will report on the principal search committees when he returns. I wanted to let everybody know about that. I wanted to remind parents and the community that MCAS exams are scheduled for the weeks of March 17th and 24th. So we ask that parents make an extra effort to ensure their children are sent to school and are ready and prepared for those important exams. And finally, regarding the facilities naming ad hoc committee, I am in the process of pulling that committee together and should have an update at the next meeting about all the members. That's it for my announcements this evening. Agenda item number 7 is the report of the representative of the Student Advisory Committee. Good evening, Rosa.
Good evening. I have a few announcements. So Tuesday, March 11th, there will be a representative from the Army in the cafeteria during the high school lunches. Wednesday, March 12th, there will be a school council meeting at 5:30 p.m. at SMHS Library. Friday, March 14th, will be the high school winter carnival dance for grades 9 to 12. It will be at the Night of Columbus from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And it will be $5 admissions. For those interested, they must sign up during the lunches. Friday, March 21st, will be the first annual SMHS Chili Bowl. It will be from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at SMHS Cafeteria. So come and sample chili made by our SMHS staff for $5. There will be prizes for the best chili. All staff are encouraged to come and participate and bring their chili so people can come in. And everyone is invited to come in and eat some chili and have fun. And, start talking about that chili. It is Friday, March 21st. So Thursday, March 27th is the high school band concert. It's going to be at the SMHS Auditorium at 7 p.m. Please come in and hear the band perform. They are doing pretty good, I must say. So March 17th, Ms. Farraco, who is the college counselor at the high school, will be taking 12 juniors to Quincy-Gammon campus in Worcester for a whole day. They will be able to live the campus life for a whole day, shadow a student, eat lunch with them, go to classes, and see what college is like. And on March 28th will be the NHS Adopt a Senior fundraiser. So underclassmen will be able to buy a senior and have a whole day as a senior serving them. Teachers are also encouraged to buy a senior. That they could be their helper throughout the day. We'll carry your lunches. We'll go and get you food, do your homework for you, but you have to pay for our service. And if you want, for seniors, this is for seniors, if you want an updated scholarship list, go and talk to Ms. Cook down at the guidance office. Everyone knows her. She's a short lady there. Go talk to her. She has a list of all the scholarships. Apply for them. And then I have a list of when MCAS are, so pay attention, parents and students. For the middle school, on the 18th will be the MCAS ELA long competition for 7th grade. On the 20th will be MCAS ELA for 6th grade. Also on the 24th for 6th grade. On the 25th will be for the 7th grade. 26th is also 7th grade. The MCAS ELA will be for the 8th grader on the 27th and on the 28th. Also on the 27th will be the long composition makeup for grade 7. And then the MCAS ELA makeup for grade 8 will be the 31st. On the high school side, on the 18th will be MCAS ELA long composition for grade 10. On the 19th will be MCAS ELA, as well as on the 21st for grade 10. And on the 27th will be MCAS long composition makeup for grade 10. So if you plan on skipping any of those days, remember March 10th for the high school. And for the middle school, remember March 31st. And come and take your test so you can get good grades and a good scholarship. And those are all my announcements for today. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Rosa. Agenda item number 8 are school committee reports. Mrs. Donovan, do you have a report from the curriculum subcommittee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not have a report. However, I do have a meeting scheduled for Monday, March 17th at 6:30 p.m. in room M100 at 25 Cole Ave, and that agenda will be posted later this week. Thank you.
Very much. For policy, Mrs. Quinney?
We're going to be discussing policies later. However, the meeting that was scheduled for tomorrow night has been rescheduled. The next policy subcommittee meeting will be April 9th at 6 p.m. in room M100. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything to report on negotiations, Mrs. Quinney?
Yes. The negotiations subcommittee has scheduled a meeting with the Para and Tutor Union on March 27th to begin negotiations. And that'll be at 4:30 p.m.
Thank you. Mrs. Congdon, Family and Community Engagement?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Family and Community Engagement Subcommittee met on Monday, March 3rd at 6:30 in room N100 on Cole Ave. Subcommittee members in attendance were myself and Mr. Olivo. Members of the community were Mrs. Quinney, and Mrs. McLaughlin was also present. Our guest speaker was Gilles-Marie Flores of the group Aspira. Gilles-Marie talked about Aspira. They have 2 youth groups. that are happening right now, one for middle school students and one for high school students. The middle school meets on Wednesdays, and the high school meets on Thursdays. The middle school is working right now on healthy relationships and healthy friendships, determining who good friends and bad friends are, and how you can distance yourself from a bad friend. This group also helps tie along with prevention of bullying. The high school group is more focused on college readiness, good decisions, bad decisions, and having a plan in place for college readiness. The other programs that Aspira has is the Aspira Academy. It used to be held on Saturdays at Quinsigamond Community College, but this Aspira Academy is now being held every Monday and Wednesday. Mondays are more driven towards English homework, MCAS preparation. She stated that they do a lot of free writing, and all the students have a journal to become creative and work on their writing. On Wednesdays, they work on math. There are 12 students in the program. There's 2 juniors, 1 senior, and 9 freshmen. The program started on January 27th, and it's held for 10 weeks. The students have to attend 10 to 15 classes, and the program had developed incentives for attendance, and they also offer extra credit for the students as well. As long as the students receive a perfect or near perfect attendance, they'll receive the incentives. Aspira also has a summer academy. It's 6 weeks long. The students have internships, and last year, I believe most of the internships were paid internships. Ms. Flores works directly with groups such as the Center of Hope, Workforce Central, and last year, some of the students for their internships worked at Harrington Memorial Hospital, the YMCA, Camp Foskett, the Cops and Kids program, just to name a few. She'll start accepting applications for that program sometime in April, so the students can start to look in the guidance office for applying to that summer program. Last year, they had 17 students, and the first year they had 11, so that program's growing. The students in that summer program have to do 8 hours of community service per semester for a total of 16 hours of community service, and they always look for ways to help to serve the community. She also mentioned that through the past couple of years that Aspira has been around, they have done scholarships for the past 4 to 5 years, and they have awarded approximately $7,000 to the students of Southbridge High School only. She also mentioned that Aspira will be holding their 3rd annual volleyball tournament, and it will be held at the YMCA. We voted to approve the minutes of the February 17th meeting, and also on our agenda was the discussion of the Parent-Teacher-Student Compact, where we helped to kind of get ideas on the student version of the contract, the parent and the teacher, which we had brainstormed and came up with a list. The list will be sent off to the superintendent to work on with his district leadership team. We also discussed sending the results of the family and community survey over to the superintendent and have him discuss those with the district leadership team as well. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 7th. That's Monday, April 7th at 7 p.m. in room M100. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Report of the SPED-PAC liaison, Mrs. Quinney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next meeting of the SPED-PAC will be March 20th. From 6 to 7 will be a regular PAC meeting. Any parents are encouraged to attend. Following that meeting will be a workshop from 7 to 8, and that will be, Anita Poulin will be putting on the first, excuse me, the first of 4 in a series of 4 workshops on sensory processing. Teachers are strongly encouraged to attend. Any parents of children that have sensory processing disorder or anyone that's interested in finding out more of what sensory processing disorder is or how that would impact the child's ability to learn is encouraged to attend. And again, that's 7 to 8 on March 20th in room M100 at 25 Cole Ave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This evening, we're pleased to have with us Mr. Jonathan Matusco, who's going to update us on a planned trip to Spain during April vacation week. Welcome, Mr. Matusco.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening to the rest of the school committee. For those of you that have not met me, my name is John Matusco.
Might need to
and
raise the mic.
I'm sorry?
Raise the mic, maybe?
Oh, I'm sorry. Better?
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is John Matusco, and I am the middle school Spanish teacher at the middle high school. I believe I have or have had several of your children. And if you have younger children, I hope to have them. I hope to be around for quite a while. To update those of you that may be newer or may need recall on this, I am planning and am executing a trip to Spain this coming April vacation. We leave on the 19th of April. We'll return on the 26th of April. And I'm here seeking final approval for that trip. You should have in front of you the recent flight information sent to me by Mr. Kent, who is the representative at EF Tours, the tour company we are using for that trip, and that will include departure and arrival for both leaving and coming back, as well as the contact information for the hotels, the dates of stay, and websites for those hotels. I have gone onto each of those websites and checked the accommodations to make sure that these are valid sites, and they are very reputable hotels. The Hotel Maestre in Córdoba, which is the second hotel on the list, is hosted by Best Western, and they're a very reputable chain here in the United States, so they are reputable as well. I would have no problem going forward and saying that these are reasonable, safe, clean accommodations that I would feel comfortable bringing children to.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Matusco? Do you want to recap? Go ahead, Mrs. Condon.
Through you, Madam Chair, just in looking over the field trip approval request form, questions I had were how many students would be enrolled?
At this current time, we have 6 students. We have 4 young ladies, and 3 young ladies, 2 young men, and 1 adult. So the mother of one of the students has also enrolled on the tour. So we're 6 altogether, plus myself.
Thank you. My other question was just how will the room situation work?
Because this rooming information has just come in, I have yet to speak to Mr. Kent about this. We are a smaller group, so we do not have the luxury of having our own tour guide. So we will be assigned to tour with another larger group. We'll be part of that group. My primary reason for speaking to Mr. Kent about this is to get the rooming accommodations. With the amount that we have, the amount of students, it is feasible to group ours into 3 rooms. That would be, the way that I see it would be mother and daughter would stay in one room, and then we would put the 2 young men in another room, and then the other 3 young ladies in another room, since rooms generally come in packages of 2 or 3. And hopefully they'll put me somewhere, maybe prop me in a corner, I don't know. But it is manageable. I just need to confirm that with Mr. Kent, and as soon as I do, I'll report back to the committee on that.
And my other question, just in regards to the parents in the passports, just for security purposes, will you hold on to the passports and have copies just in case someone loses theirs?
I plan on holding copies of the passports. It's my intention at the departure meeting, the meeting I'll have with the parents before departure, to ask them for copies of their passports in a sealed envelope that I will keep with me in case somebody loses their passport. It is my standard policy in all of the tours that I've done and on any that I've been on that we do multiple passport checks. At the time of arrival, we do a passport check as we're getting ready to board on a bus, as we get off a bus, as we complete each stop, just to make sure these students have them. In that envelope as well, I'm going to ask for their health insurance card to be put in to cover any, necessities for that card. The information will be sealed though, so that it remains confidential until it's needed. I don't see a need to carry information like that in an unsecured manner.
In regards to the group with another tour group, will they put them in rooms with our students?
Well, like I said, I'm hoping that because of the number that we have in the configuration, that's not so, that because the students will naturally be more comfortable with students from their own school. But when I confirm with Mr. Kent, I'll get back to you with that information. That's information I don't have at this time because I just received the room assignments this morning, or the hotel information, rather.
just a comment.
Sure.
In regards to that, that's just my only concern is because I just hope if they are put in rooms with other people, that it's just the same age group. 'Cause
Oh, well, they wouldn't put, I can guarantee you that they wouldn't put a 13-year-old in with a 19-year-old or a 13-year-old in with a 17-year-old. They generally try to keep kids in with the same age range. And when I spoke to Mr. Kent in planning this group, I was very specific in saying that the majority of these students would be between 6th and 8th grade. So again, I will confirm on that for you. But every conversation I've had with Mr. Kent and EF Tours has led me to believe that they will be grouped by age range.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my question. Thank you, Mr. Matusco.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions?
I have a couple.
Okay. Mr. Olivo, please.
Through you, Madam Chair. Mr. Matusco, thank you for coming out. And
Thank you
presenting.
for having me.
Just a couple questions. How many chaperones, to include yourself, are going to be on this?
It will be myself as the lead chaperone. The other, Mrs. Quesada, who is the other registered adult for the trip, will act as an adult chaperone as well. From the moment that we land in Madrid to the moment that we depart for Boston, we will be accompanied by a licensed EF tour guide. And at every other time, when we reach the outside sites that are when we stop, when we tour Madrid, when we get to Cordoba, when we get to Seville, we'll be met by another licensed tour guide from the city. So there will be no less than 2 other adults other than myself at any given time, with the exception of the hotels, where it will be myself and the other adult.
Okay.
The tour guides don't stay at the hotel with us.
All right, now, my second question would be, some of these are optional, like in day 3 in Madrid, and I think it was
All right.
day 6 in Seville.
Are you referring to the flamenco evening and the other activity?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if these kids opt not to go to these programs, what's the plan in place?
To clarify for that, the optional comes from the fact that it's not part of the original package that's offered. You can purchase them as an option, and I included them in the purchase price of the package. So the students that are enrolled, these are parts of the trip that we're going on, but it's listed as optional because the original planned trip does not include those. So in other words, we bought the add-on flamenco evening as part of it. We bought the add-on trip to Toledo as part of that, as part of the tour. It's not a standard. So the kids, when the kids enrolled on the tour, they receive that as part of their tour.
Okay. Now, one more question.
Sure.
I wasn't here when this was first brought to the school committee, so my question was, what did these students do in order to fundraise?
We have had, luckily, we have had success with students, and their parents have been able to put a lot of the funding down. For the students that needed the funding, we have been at the middle school basketball games, selling cold drinks and snacks. We have the students have done some, in their family soliciting for some others. And I have 2 fundraisers left, which will cover the cost of the bus driver tips, the tour guide tips. And those will be completed by the time we leave. And if we have some gift baskets that we're still got to be pushed out to raffling, thanks in part to Mrs. McLaughlin. And we also have a stick an administrator to the wall, but we have to find a new administrator because unfortunately Miss Allen is out on sick leave. She had agreed to be stuck to our cafeteria wall. So, Ms. Gardner, if you're interested, we can.
I'll pay to see that.
I'd be happy to do it. The kids don't know me, but I'd be happy to do it if you need somebody.
Okay, so we'll essentially, Mr. Olivo, have a very willing administrator stand on a stool in the cafeteria, hopefully. We'll sell the scotch tape, the duct tape for $1 a foot, and see how far that gets us. The goal being to remove it and have an administrator plastered to the wall. Sounds fun. I'm still up. I've also done a raffle. We had done it. I'm going to run it for an extra week before we do the finals, where the teachers had very generously agreed to offer some services. One of our teachers offered to give ukulele lessons. Another one offered to let kids shadow as a vice principal, and another one offered to let kids shadow as a guidance counselor. And I offered to let some kids shave my head. And every time I cut my hair, they ask me if that's what I've done, but not yet. So it's an idea that we've sort of raffled some services off to get the kids, to buy in.
Awesome. And all the kids have participated in the fundraising?
The kids that needed the funds have, yes. The ones that have been, and even kids, I have to say, I'm proud of the fact that even the kids that hadn't enrolled on the trip and weren't interested in going had participated. The kids love to sit in the cafeteria and have all the other kids come up to the table and sign up for things. I did a Halloweenogram and I had a list this long of kids just willing, able, 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders. They were all at the cafeteria table, walking around, asking their friends, stopping teachers in the hallways. It was a great thing.
Sounds like you guys gonna have fun, have a good trip.
I hope so. It's going to be, I firmly believe, and I said this at the first meeting, it's going to be a life-changing experience for these kids. It is going to take them out of anywhere they have ever known before and put them somewhere that, the first time I went, my mouth dropped open and I was in my late 20s. I can't imagine being 13 and going.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any questions here? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Matusco. I
Thank
know
you.
we've talked a couple times,
We
so
have.
thank you for coming tonight.
Well, I appreciate your guidance on this.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. One of my questions was relative to transportation to and from the airport. I wasn't sure if Mr. Olivo had asked that. I couldn't quite hear well. On your initial form, you had that you signed up with AA Transportation. Is that still the plan to get the kids to the
I
airport?
have spoken to a couple of people regarding transportation. I do not have final details yet because I didn't have flight times and I didn't have specific flight dates. But I have
Okay.
spoken to a couple of other services, and I'm getting some quotes together, and as soon as I have transportation information to and from, again, I will send it forward to school
So you
committee.
will, your intention is to have the families or the kids meet as a group, say at the middle high
Absolutely.
school, and then leave together as a group?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't want to take any chances, and we will start together and we will finish together, and that includes, my responsibility begins at the middle high school or wherever our meeting point is, takes us all the way into the airport, all the way through the trip, and my responsibility ends when the last little one is back with their parents
Right.
after the trip. That's 100% guaranteed.
And I
on
don't
that.
recall when you first came before us, I believe you might have mentioned it, and I don't recall, how many times have you yourself personally taken this trip? Or do you have your experience with EF Tours?
This will be trip number 3 for me. The first time I
Okay.
went on my own, my parents sent me loose in Europe to go study, to which this day I still appreciate them for. And the second time I made the trip, I was on a trip through the district I used to work in. It was
Okay.
myself, another 2 teachers, and 18 students. So I'm taking the same tour that I've enrolled on this one, and I'm doing it for familiarity.
Right.
And I'm doing it for ease of travel. I felt most comfortable bringing an initial group in a new district, especially younger kids, on a trip that I'd taken previously so that there were no surprises. I know what to expect. I know what they'll see. I know what they'll encounter. I've dealt with a tour company before.
Great, that was my whole reason for asking that question. That's what you want to hear. You know, we don't want this to be the first time around for you. And
I want my focus to be on the children, and I want them to enjoy the experience. Of course, I'm going to enjoy myself, but I want to be able to be as focused as possible on these children. And so taking them on a tour that I've taken before allows me to focus more on them than anything else.
Okay.
You know?
Another question I have, that the children that are going on the trip that will not have their parents with them, do you have health insurance records or medical insurance or whatever in
At
case
the-
something happens to them while they're there?
Again, at the parent meeting that I'm having with the parents next week, I'm coordinating with 2. I may have to have 2 smaller meetings. I will ask the parents to enclose a copy of their health insurance card for the child in that envelope, along with a copy of their passport, which again will remain sealed until needed, so that I have.
And you're
that
sure everybody
information.
has a passport? They've
Uh-huh.
all received, they all
yes.
have them?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Oh, yes, yes, indeed.
Okay.
That was the first thing, yes, indeed, have
Excellent.
a passport ready. And I've been
Okay.
checking to make sure.
Another thing I thought of, once you get there, is there a way for the kids to call home and let their parents know that they've safely arrived through an international
Absolutely.
phone plan?
Absolutely. With today's technology, a lot of the phones, a lot of iPhones and a lot of Droid phones, I don't know if there's another name for it, but a lot of those phones do go international. And if not, I can guarantee you that phone cards are a dime a dozen. You can buy a phone card every time you turn around in Madrid or any place in Seville, and for something like €5 or €6, they'll get a phone card with 600 or 700 minutes on it.
Oh, wow.
And they'll be able to call home internationally, and they'll have plenty of that. Every time I've ever gone and had a student buy a phone card, they've had plenty for their, for
Okay.
the,
Excellent.
throughout the week.
Okay. I guess wrap this up, thank you for taking the kids. It's nice to have somebody come forward and offer this experience for our kids, so thank you for that.
I really want this to be the first of many trips, not just a trip. I would like to show to a community where sometimes things don't always go as planned in terms of getting kids on field trips, or where sometimes we may not have enough money to do as much as we want for the kids, that things like this are possible. I really, really believe in kids like this. I love working in this district, and I want to bring as much to it as possible. So bringing kids on a trip like this shows them that there's more to life
Absolutely.
out there, really.
And what I would like to do, Madam Chair, through you, if it's possible, upon your return, perhaps, perhaps one of our May meetings is to have you come back with some of the kids to give us feedback on your trip and
Absolutely.
perhaps provide some pictures or some,
Absolutely.
let the kids speak
that would be
and
fun.
let us know what, how it actually went, because this is going to be the first time that I think any of us up here have approved something like this. And we want to make sure that, the yays and the nays about it, what worked, what didn't, so that moving forward, we'll know for future trips. I think that we could learn a lot from this as well.
Absolutely. I plan to establish either a Facebook or some sort of photo bucket Snapfish page that the parents of the students can have access to, so that there is, throughout the day as we're going through and the kids are taking pictures, they can add them to these, this page, or as I'm taking pictures of all the kids doing all the various activities, taking snapshots, the parents can sort of travel with their children. So that with today's technology, it's almost like, oh, look, Mom, look what I've seen, and they're able to send home actual pictures. So at the end of the day, and with the time difference, the end of the day for us is the middle of the working day here. So parents get
Right.
home from work and they're reading their email from their children and they're able to log on and see this sort of, this is what my child did today. I'll check up and make sure I'm absolutely within acceptable use policies and such in
Okay.
creating the pages and all. But this is another way for parents to feel better about their children being so far away, is that they have access to this information
Okay.
right away.
And my last question is, I know there's still a little bit of details left that you need to complete just because of the nature of the trip and working with Kent Tours now that you're associated with another group. Once you have all that information, what is your intention? Is it to come back to us, or is it to
Well,
provide
if-
the information? What would be the best way to get that last-minute detail to us?
Well, with your permission, I'd love to send it forward as I have it. If you would like me to make another appearance before the trip, if there is a school committee meeting scheduled, I'll be happy to come back and give you all the information. But with the urgency of the date coming upon us, I feel as the trip, as we gather the information, as I'm sent the information, as I'm in contact with Mr. Kent, I'll be sending this information forward. I'm also inviting any member and all members of the school committee to come to our parent information sessions. I can send forward the date on that. And that's simply going to be small informal meetings because there aren't that many parents, but small informal meetings on things like, okay, when we get here, here's what's going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to approach customs. Here's how we're going to get through customs. Here's what you should have a money belt. You should, the do's and don'ts for safer travel abroad, checklist to make sure. This is the time I'll be asking for things like, please send me a note if your child is allergic to peanut butter, or please send me a note if your children are allergic to shellfish. Here's some typical things you may need. And there we'll discuss spending money. We'll talk about, what's appropriate behavior, what the time change might do, what to expect when we get to different sites, how we'll be met, just to put as much ease into the minds of the parents and students as possible.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Matusko.
Thank you.
Do you have anything, Mrs. Cooney?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Matusko. I just had a point of clarification. EF Tours is the tour group that you've used before?
Correct.
Correct, okay. Thank you. That was
Thank
it.
you. Hi, I just have a few questions,
Sure.
too, and some just occurred to me, or some I had, some just occurred to me as I was reviewing our policy here. Have Cory checks been done on any parents that will be going on this trip?
I have not had a Cory check done for Mrs. Quesada because she enrolled as a traveler. That will be accomplished first thing tomorrow. And Mrs. Quesada, if you're watching, please stop in the school.
Okay.
She has she and I have actually an appointment on Thursday to discuss some details of the trip. So if she doesn't have one on file, she will have one going forward from there. I will bring it up as part of my meeting with her.
I believe it's a quick turnaround now. It used to take a little bit of time, but I think now it's 24, 48 hours, so...
We have 6 weeks, so...
Well, we would need that, to see that for sure. Does everyone on the trip have insurance?
Trip insurance or personal insurance?
Insurance is required for international travel. According to our policy, we want all students to have insurance.
Trip insurance or health insurance?
I cannot pull up on that's one thing I cannot
I would think it's health insurance. 'cause
recall. It would be health insurance? It would be health insurance.
I can double check on that as well. I don't know the personal health insurance status of each parent, but it does prompt for information
Okay.
as they enroll, but I will double check and get back to that, get back the information for you.
All right. And we had recommended, I believe in the policy, we didn't require, but I believe we did recommend travel insurance, just in the event that something,
Travel insurance was suggested
Okay.
upon enrollment. Parents were offered the opportunity to purchase that at a small additional fee. And we did explain to parents, and it was explained on the website, that the trip insurance is to prevent, or to provide rather, a blanket in case something should happen.
okay, very good. The field trip permission slips from the parents are not in the packet, and I apologize, I should have asked you for them.
Okay?
We would need to see those before,
And you will have them.
okay. So we would need signed permission slips, if you will, from all the parents.
Okay?
And are you aware if the Department of State has issued any warnings to the area where you are traveling?
They have not to this date.
Okay. Would you continue to check those?
I
and just ensure?
absolutely will.
Okay. All right, Mr. Matusco, is there anybody else that has a question?
Just have one
Mr.
more.
Olivo? Sure.
Through you, Madam Chair, one more question.
Sure.
You did talk about briefly about the room situation and what your hopes were. What is your plan in place for room checks once these children go to bed? What's going to be their curfew time, and how often will you check?
Well, I fully expect them to be tired out early evening. On a trip like this, dinner is approximately 6:30, 7 o'clock. We're back in our hotels by then, unless we're at Flamenco evening, then it's a little bit later. But once they get back, they are expected to be in their hotel rooms no later than 9 o'clock. And this is where they'll be in their hotel rooms.
Yeah.
I will be in the hall, in the vicinity of their rooms frequently until about 11:30 when I go to bed myself, until I'm guaranteed sure. This is to prevent any sort of incidents that may occur, and especially, I can guarantee you, sir, that if we are close by or in the proximity of other students from another school, that I will be hyper vigilant on that, only because there should be no incidents happening whatsoever. The hotel staff in Europe is usually very good when they accommodate large tours. There's often extra people on staff, and there's often extra people in throughout the hotel coming around as well. I won't expect them to do, complete my responsibilities, but in terms of physical bodies being present as representative of the hotels, there's usually a few more around.
And your plan, should these students experience something, is it to report to you as soon as possible?
In terms of,
If there's an incident, then...
they would come to me, and then we would contact the hotel and the local police. We would involve all the necessary steps. And then I'll file an incident report with the hotel, with the local police, and then we'll notify, somehow I'll get notification back here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anything else over here? Anything else over here? Thank you very much, Mr. Matusco.
Thank you.
I know coming up on the agenda is a vote to approve this tonight, give the final approval, and that would be under School Committee Actions, Agenda Item 12. However, I've just conferred with Mrs. Donovan over here, and we do want to hold off tonight.
Okay.
Only till we have the Corey in hand, the permission slips in hand, and can see those. We can do that, we certainly can add it to the next school committee meeting.
When is the next school committee meeting,
It
please?
is March 25th,
March 25th today, so that's approximately
2
2 weeks
weeks.
from now.
And if that would give you enough time to pull stuff together.
Absolutely
And if
will.
you could pull that together, it may not necessitate you being here, we can discuss that. But we feel that, I
Point-
personally feel that these.
Point
I'm
of
sorry.
order, Madam Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Just in looking at our current policy on our overnight extended time field trip, it says that final approval for all overnight or extended time field trips must be sought no less than 5 weeks prior to scheduled trips. Are we saying that this is the seeking of it and the approval can be held off to less than 5 weeks?
Yes,
Okay,
that would be my interpretation of it.
thank you.
So you'd still be okay as far as that goes, but I feel these documents personally, and I'm willing to discuss that with school committee members here now, but I feel that those documents need to be in hand before.
Absolutely, and you'll have them.
before we
And
can
as
do-
soon as
And I apologize for not letting you know that sooner. Again, this is the first time we've done a field trip of this sort, so.
We're learning together
It's a
then.
learning experience for all of us.
Now, may I ask a question, please?
Sure.
When I have these documents in hand, should I send them forward to you? Should I send them, how should I process them?
You can send them to me, you could send them to the superintendent's administrative
So
assistant.
send them to you or the superintendent via interoffice mail?
Sure.
Absolutely, I'll do that.
Appreciate that. And we'll make quick work of that at the next meeting. Mrs. Quinney?
Thank you. When is your first parent information night scheduled for?
On Thursday, it's an informal meeting in the afternoon with two of the parents at this time. I can send you the details, but initially it's 2:20 in the afternoon on Thursday, just to catch up on some smaller details. If you would prefer to attend one of these meetings, I'll certainly schedule something more formal.
My concern isn't necessarily attending, but it's getting this information to us as soon as possible so that this can be approved, having no falter. So when
Well, the
would
two
you
of the parents
expect?
of the students I'm meeting with on Thursday,
Yeah.
and since I'm one of the parents, so I can get that form pretty quickly to you, the permission slip. Two of the other parents I'm meeting with on Thursday, so I can clear that. I'll give Mrs. Quesada a call tomorrow regarding her Cory check and just verify and see if she has one on file, and if she doesn't, ask her to come in. And then the next parent I'll reach out to tomorrow by phone and send a permission slip home with her student tomorrow.
So I just want to clarify. So by the end of this week, hopefully, we'll have the Cory check?
The Cory check initiated, yes.
Yep. It's, permission slips, and then proof of insurance. Okay.
Certainly, I'll follow through on all those things for you, tomorrow being Wednesday, and should I email you the,
I think as soon as you have everything.
okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Ms. Gardner?
Thank you. I just want to make a couple of points, and we can talk about it later. And you're
Sure.
probably aware, I mean, if students have a Skype account, so many places in Europe you can get free Wi-Fi. So if they and their parents have Skype accounts, they can call home free anytime they
That's
have
an excellent point.
They have an internet connection. And for you, if you want to add some minutes, because you can call through Skype for pennies on the minute, we can reimburse you if you want to do that, if you have a Skype account. And that's a really easy way to do it. Because a lot of places in Europe, the internet is free when you duck into a cafe or probably at your hotel. I think that was one. You can also sign up with the State Department to get alerts for safety. And so any of you who are concerned, if you go to the U.S. State Department, you can sign up for alerts from anywhere in the country, and it will anywhere in the world, and it will come to your email account. And finally, I'd just like to thank you for the fundraising that you've done. I've seen you doing it, and you know that's the part about teaching that is so wonderful, that you go that extra step to do it. And I think once these students come back and talk about the incredible experience they've had, and the ones that have seen you doing fundraising, I think that's really going to help us build our travel program.
I
So
hope it
thank
does. I really hope it does. Thank you for the kind words.
Anything else, anybody? Have we talked it to death? Thank you,
You know, I'd
Mr.
rather answer 100 questions than not answer the one that needs an answer.
Thank you, Mr. Matusco.
Thank you, Madam
and
Chair. Thank you to the school committee for having me again, and I'll get that information to you ASAP.
I echo everybody else's sentiments, too. It's great that you took the initiative to do this.
Thank you.
And offering these kids, I'm sure it will be a trip of a lifetime.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is no report of the finance director this evening. However, there is a budget meeting scheduled for tomorrow night at 6 p.m. I'll talk more about that under new business. Next, we have the report of the superintendent, so I will turn it over to Ms. Gardner, our Director of Teaching and Learning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to be here on behalf of the superintendent, who is awaiting the birth of a grandchild in California. So I'm sure he's very excited. It had not arrived as of this afternoon. We are very excited about MCAS this year. We've been working on it. We have a countdown. We're going to offer free breakfast and some snacks to students who are taking MCAS. Research shows that students who get a good breakfast do better than students who don't, so we're really going to make an effort to do that. Also, we have made a huge effort at the high school and middle school to get students signed up for spring sports. And from what I understand, last year on the baseball team, there were only 10 players. This year, we had 50 students sign up. We had a group of girls come to Mr. Wallace wanting a volleyball team with over 50 signatures on it. So I think at the high school and middle school, students are becoming much more involved, and we're very excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Sure. Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Ms. Gardner, relative to MCAS, seeing that you just mentioned it, I know that there's a lot coming up for the kids, to be prepared in the rallies and the breakfasts, like you mentioned. I want to make sure that our teachers and proctors are ready, that, the people who are going to be initiating the test, that they know the rules and the requirements, and have been properly trained and informed on how these tests are to be administered. And how is that going?
It's going very well. This year, we made a huge effort to make sure that we are going to do it correctly so that our students can benefit from having a good experience taking the test. This past Friday, which was a half-day for teachers, a release day, each school did a presentation on administering the test. Every teacher was trained in administration of the test so that if a teacher calls in sick, if we have something that happens, if someone has an emergency, we are not only ready with the teacher who is set to give it, but we're ready with many teachers standing behind them to take over. We went over test administration, we went over security, we went over the policies behind it. We double-checked where all the materials are stored. So I think we're very ready from an administrative standpoint this year to do MCAS.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on, agenda item number 12, we've removed the vote to approve the international field trip pending the receipt of some additional information, so that will be on an upcoming agenda as well. There is no unfinished business this evening. Under agenda item 14, new business, we have the first reading of school committee policy file BEDA, notification of school committee meetings. Mrs. Quinney, do you want to address that?
Certainly. Given that the two policies that we have revised this evening are short policies, I would recommend that we actually read them for the public. If no one has any objections? Excellent. Policy file BEDA is notification of school committee meetings. As required by law, a minimum of 48 hours advance notice, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, will be given for any meeting of the school committee, including all subcommittee meetings. The only exception permitted is in the case of an emergency, which the law defines as a, quote, sudden, general, unexpected occurrence or set of circumstances demanding immediate action, end quote. Notifications of dates, times, places of regular meetings will be accomplished by periodic publication of the schedule for the ensuing months. Notification of a change in a regular meeting time or place and notification of special meeting will be filed in the town with the town clerk at least 48 hours in advance as required by law. The legal reference for that is Massachusetts General Law 30A, sections 18 through 25. The changes that we have made, where we removed a repealed legal reference, which was Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 39, sections 23A and B. We added excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, as that is how the law is actually written. And that was the only changes to file BEDA. Any questions on that?
Thank you. Any questions, comment, discussion? Nope. The first reading of school committee policy file BEDC, quorum. Mrs. Quinney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. File BEDC, quorum, now says a quorum shall consist of a majority of a committee as constituted. The change to the policy was it used to read a quorum shall consist of 4 members of the full committee. The law is very clear that it's as a majority of the committee as constituted, which means if a body is set up as 7 people, the majority is 4. And then if it's a subcommittee that's set up as 3, then the majority would be 2. So that just clarified quorum for subcommittee. And that is the change.
Thank you, Mrs. Quinney. Is there any discussion on that agenda item?
Thank you.
We'll move on now to agenda item 14, and this is discussion of the superintendent's job description and evaluation instrument. This is not a discussion of the superintendent's evaluation at this time. This is merely a discussion of the job description and the tool used to evaluate the superintendent. So I just want to provide some brief history, if I may. Last fall, when this committee set some goals for itself, one was the evaluation of the superintendent. That's something that is a responsibility of the school committee. It's a legal responsibility of the school committee. And for a variety of reasons, it had not been done. And so we decided this year to make it one of our priorities. Last fall, when we gathered, in January, when we had a school committee retreat to review where we were on goals and objectives, we had done some research, but we decided to kind of assign the goals to individual members of this committee for oversight, not necessarily to do everything themselves, but just for somebody to have ownership of a particular goal, just to make sure it doesn't fall through the cracks this year. And so I was tasked with the superintendent's evaluation tool. As I did research on the superintendent's evaluation, it became very apparent that the job description is tied into the evaluation, and the evaluation is tied into the job description. So I asked the superintendent's administrative assistant for a copy of the superintendent's job description, which she provided me, which had been approved by the school committee in December of 2011. So that's an instrument that I had forwarded to everybody for review. She also advised me at that time, and this was somewhat of a surprise to me because we had asked about an evaluation instrument of the superintendent for some time, but she also forwarded to me a superintendent's evaluation tool that had been approved by the school committee in April of 2012. This evaluation tool, this evaluation tool appears, it is a template from the National School Boards Association, because I also, during my research, came upon this online. The reason I'm bringing this for discussion to the committee this evening is to find out how we want to move forward on these documents. I believe, after doing the research that I've done, that, as I said, the evaluation tool and job description should be somewhat married, and these two documents do not appear to be. Also, kind of complicating the situation is the fact that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has a superintendent evaluation tool that they feel very strongly that districts should be adopting. I think part of the rationale for that, as it's been explained to me, is so that superintendents throughout Massachusetts, when a school committee is looking for a new superintendent, they have a consistent evaluation tool by which to rate potential candidates, and that makes sense to me. So I just wanted to discuss this with the committee, see if they've had time to look at these two documents. I personally, under the job description, have identified quite a few grammatical errors or changes that I would desire to see made in that document. In addition to that, the superintendent has had an opportunity to look at this job description. He had our blessing to go over this evening. He didn't want this to be delayed. And he had recommended the addition of several components to the job description. Additional responsibilities, if you will. He wasn't asking that we take anything away. He was asking that we add some additional responsibilities. And if you have your copies with you, or if you've seen them online, they're highlighted in red. So basically, going forward, I'm trying to figure out what we should do here as a group. And the reason we're having this discussion publicly is to give the public an update on where we stand with the evaluation first. But secondly, just so the public understands, this body cannot deliberate about an issue such as this without a formal meeting, whether that be in subcommittee or a working meeting of the whole. So I just wanted to make that clear for the public's understanding. Does anybody have any comments or questions or suggestions, whether it be referred to a subcommittee or to have a working meeting to address these items? Mrs. Quinney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think in reviewing not only the goals that the school committee set for educational goals for the district, I think that our goals for the superintendent and his evaluation should also be considered we have a plan and a vision for how we'd like this district to move forward and how that gets accomplished. The superintendent being the chief executive officer of that, I think that that should be a part of it. And I think I would prefer it be a working meeting of the whole, given that this is one of our core responsibilities, that everybody have some significant input into how both these documents are set up and how we're proceeding with them moving forward for not only evaluating our current superintendent, but looking at potential superintendents moving forward and then having a tool in place that we could utilize over time as the district continues to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything on this? Mrs. Congdon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too would agree that we should set a date to put this on the agenda for a working meeting as a whole and focus on that to get that goal accomplished for this year. Thank you.
Mrs. Donovan?
I concur. I did spend a lot of time going through both the superintendent's evaluation tool as well as the job description, and when you look at each one separately, I think that they both are good jumping points, good starting points to get us going. However, when you combine the two, they do not match, and I think that that is a crucial part where they need to match, because if the superintendent is coming in and receives a job description, you would assume that whatever is listed as a primary objective would then be measured. And I'm finding that when I look to see what the primary activities would be, or responsibilities would be, or relationships would be, and then I go over to the evaluation tool, they are completely different. And it wouldn't be fair to anybody to receive a job description and get a mindset of what's expected and what he or she is to do, and then be surprised by an evaluation tool that has ratings and performances on something that they were, not even aware that that was part of their purview. So I agree that it's a daunting task almost, because you want to do a really good job. I know that these have been approved in the past. If these tools have been provided by a prior school committee, I've never seen them to know if they in fact worked well or not. But I do believe that it is something that is absolutely our responsibility, and it's something that, because I have never seen one fully completed, that it's something that we need to do. It isn't fair to Mr. Nemberko, who is currently doing his job, to not have any idea of how, to get it down in writing on how we feel this is working. And same thing moving forward. We know that we will not have him forever. So it's important that we get him evaluated from where he's at now, and then moving forward have something that will be a guide for a new person to come in, and so that new person can also understand what is going to be expected. I know in the job description there really isn't a part for goals. It's more of activities and what you will do. But I think if it's important enough for us, that perhaps we should maybe somehow try to incorporate SMART goals into the job description, and then therefore rate those goals on an evaluation tool. I just think it's very important that these two documents do definitely need to match. One thing I just wanted to let the committee know, you've been aware I've been coordinating our MASC District Governance Support Program. We're having a workshop that I have confirmed for Saturday, March 29th, and at that time I've asked the MASC trainer to also bring us information relative to the state evaluation tool that Mrs. McLaughlin has mentioned. So she will be bringing forward that additional information. But I do think it's something that we don't have set in place right now, so therefore I do think that we need to make that one of our major priorities, and at least have something in place to evaluate Mr. Nemberko and then come up with a tool moving forward. So all that being said, I would definitely agree with Mrs. Congdon and Mrs. Quinney to do it as a working meeting, as a group. I think we all bring a lot to the table. We still have Dr. Jaminko with some experience with this, and I think that it's something that we should work together as a group as soon as we can. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So what I am hearing from my fellow school committee members is that we'd like to schedule a working meeting, and that ideally, the best time for that might be after the March 29th MASC workshop, when we're able to get some additional information and guidance from the Mass Association of School Committees. Correct? Okay. Thank you very much. Agenda item 14D, the next regular school committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, March 25th, 2014, in council chambers. A committee of the whole meeting, this will be a budget meeting, will be held tomorrow evening, March 12th, in room M100 at the 25 Cole Avenue Administration Building. At this time, I would like to give members an opportunity to speak if they so choose. Mrs. Congdon?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep.
I just wanted to say thank you to Eastford Road School, and a special thanks to Ms. Rabata, Mrs. Fontaine, Mrs. Wayman, and Mrs. Trahan for coordinating Feeling Big Literacy Night held for the kindergarten students and their parents at Eastford Road School. Approximately 55 children and adults attended this program, and the children listened to 4 selections of literature and completed coordinating activities for each, which was aligned nicely to the English Language Arts Common Core. There was a nice article and some great pictures in today's Southbridge Evening News from this Family Literacy Night, so I just wanted to thank everyone. My husband and children attended the event and had a really good time, so if you have for the public to check out what a great event that was. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Lebo? Okay. Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just 2 items. My first item is relative to MCAS testing. I'm hopeful that we'll have a smooth testing experience. We're trying to put a lot in place, and I know we will not see the fruits of our labor right away. We will not get these test results till probably October. But I'm wishing and thanking all of our teachers and staff and administration for all of their hard work to make sure that they know what they need to do, and more importantly, to make sure that our kids know what they need to know for this test. So I wish all the kids and families in our district a successful test taking over the next couple of weeks. And secondly, I just wanted to remind parents of students of Charlton Street School and West Street School that progress reports went home today. So just keep an eye out for those in your child's backpack. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody? Thank you all. There is no executive session this evening, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mrs. Congdon makes a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Mrs. Quinney seconds. Can I have a vote by show of hands, please? All in favor? Meeting adjourns at 8:03 p.m. Thank you and have a good night.